Listen, I need to tell you something that most Ford owners don't want to hear. That F-150, that Explorer, that Mustang sitting in your garage right now is probably not going to last as long as it should. Not because Ford built a bad vehicle, but because you are making one critical mistake every single day without even realizing it. I have spent years working on these trucks and cars, and I have watched engines give up at 90,000 miles that should have easily pushed past 250,000. I have seen transmissions fail way before their time. I have seen batteries die every couple of years when they should last twice that long. And every single time, the owner says the same thing. I don't understand. I changed my oil. I took care of it. Here is the thing. Taking care of your Ford means more than just following the maintenance schedule. There is a driving pattern that is slowly eating your engine from the inside out. Today, I am going to show you exactly what it is and how to fix it. The everyday habit that's killing your Ford. Let me cut straight to it. The number one thing destroying Ford vehicles across America is short trip driving without proper warm-up cycles. You start your F-150 in the morning, drive 8 minutes to work, park it, drive 8 minutes home, maybe swing by the grocery store for another 5-minute trip, rinse and repeat day after day, week after week, repeat. Seems harmless, right? You are not racing it. You are not towing heavy loads. You are being gentle with it. That's the trap. Your Ford's EcoBoost engine, your Coyote V8, and your 10-speed transmission are all engineered to operate at specific temperatures. When you never let them reach those temperatures, bad things start happening inside. And Ford's modern powertrains are more sensitive to this than the old pushrod engines your dad drove. What's actually happening under the hood? Here's the science that Ford doesn't put in big letters in your owner's manual. When you fire up your Ford on a cold morning, the oil is thick and sluggish. Your engine runs a richer fuel mixture to compensate for the cold. Condensation forms inside the crankcase and exhaust system. This is all normal. It happens to every engine. The problem starts when you shut it down before everything gets hot enough to burn off that moisture and extra fuel. On those quick trips around town, your oil temperature might hit 150 or 160 degrees. Feels warm, right? Your gauge looks normal. But here is what Ford engineers know. Oil needs to reach around 212 degrees to evaporate the moisture that has contaminated it. Below that threshold, water stays mixed in with your oil day after day, slowly turning into acid that attacks your bearings and timing components. For EcoBoost owners, this is especially critical. Those turbos are precision instruments that depend on clean, hot oil. When moisture and fuel dilution contaminate that oil, your turbo bearings pay the price. That is why so many turbo failures trace back to short trip driving patterns. And if you are running the 5.0 Coyote, those cam phasers need consistent oil pressure and clean oil to function properly. Contaminated oil from chronic short trips clogs the solenoids and wears down the timing components. That is where repair bills that cost $5,000 to $7,000 come from. The transmission damage nobody talks about. Your engine is not the only victim. That 10R80 10-speed automatic in your F-150 or Mustang GT is suffering too. Transmission fluid needs heat to function correctly. On short trips, it stays thick and sluggish. The shift solenoids are working harder than they should. The clutch packs are not getting proper lubrication. Moisture builds up inside the transmission case and has nowhere to go. This is why some owners report harsh shifting and erratic behavior from the 10-speed. Yes, there are documented issues with valve bodies and software calibration, but a lot of these problems get amplified when the transmission never reaches proper operating temperature. City-driven Fords often develop that infamous harsh shift and torque converter shudder years before highway-driven trucks with double the mileage. It is not random. It is a predictable result of how they were driven. Why your battery keeps dying. Here is another connection most Ford owners miss. Every cold start drains your battery significantly. The alternator is supposed to recharge it while you drive. But on a 5 or 10 minute trip, The battery never fully recovers. Do this repeatedly and the battery sulfates internally, a chemical process that permanently reduces capacity. This is why some Ford owners replace batteries every 2 years, while others get 5 or 6 years from the same battery. It is not luck. It is driving patterns. The remote start mistake. I know this is going to be controversial, but hear me out. Ford's remote start is a fantastic feature. Nothing beats climbing into a warm F-150 on a freezing Michigan morning or a cool Mustang during a Texas summer. But if you remote start your vehicle and then only drive it for a few minutes, you are actually making things worse. That idle time in the driveway is warming your coolant slowly, but it is barely touching your oil temperature. Meanwhile, the engine is running rich, dumping extra fuel into the cylinders, and that fuel is washing down into your oil pan. Remote start is perfectly fine as long as you are actually going somewhere far enough to complete a proper heat cycle. If you are just driving around the corner, you might be better off skipping the remote start entirely. The oil life monitor trap. Ford's intelligent oil life monitor is sophisticated technology. It tracks your driving conditions, engine temperature, idle time, and calculates when you need an oil change. In theory, it is smarter than a fixed interval. Here is the problem for short trip drivers. The monitor does not actually analyze your oil. It cannot measure moisture content or fuel dilution. It is running an algorithm based on assumptions that do not account for the chemical degradation happening when your oil never reaches full temperature. I have seen oil from short trip Fords that looks fine to the eye, but comes back from Blackstone Labs showing alarming fuel dilution and moisture levels, even with 50% oil life remaining on the monitor. For EcoBoost trucks, experienced Ford technicians recommend 5,000-mile oil changes regardless of what the monitor says. Those turbos are too expensive to gamble on an algorithm. The fix that changes everything. All right, enough doom and gloom. Here's how you protect your Ford and push it toward that 500,000-mile goal. The solution is not complicated, and it does not require you to stop making short trips. Life happens. You have to get to work, pick up the kids, run errands. I get it. What you need is one proper heat cycle every week to counteract those short trips. Here's what that looks like. Once a week, take your Ford out for 20 to 30 minutes of continuous highway or back road driving after it is fully warmed up. Not stop and go traffic, not idling in a parking lot, actual sustained driving at steady speeds with moderate engine load. This allows your oil to reach full operating temperature. The moisture that has been accumulating evaporates. Fuel dilution burns off. Your exhaust system dries out, preventing that rust from the inside problem. Your battery gets a full charge. Your transmission fluid circulates properly and sheds moisture. One drive a week. That is it. 20 minutes that could add years to your Ford's life. Let me get specific about what this means for different Ford powertrains. EcoBoost engines, 2.3 liter, 2.7 liter, and 3.5 liter. These direct injection engines are carbon buildup factories when they are not running at proper temperatures. Cold starts dump fuel that never fully burns, coating your intake valves with deposits. Regular heat cycles help burn off some of that buildup. Combine that with top-tier fuel and 5,000-mile oil changes, and you will delay or avoid a $600 walnut blasting service. The 5.0 Coyote Phi 8 CAM. Phasers are oil pressure dependent. Short trips with contaminated oil accelerate wear on the phaser mechanisms, solenoids, and timing chain components. Full synthetic oil, 5,000-mile changes maximum, and regular heat cycles will keep those phasers quiet for the long haul. The 10E R8010 speed transmission runs hot when it is working hard, but it needs heat to function correctly, even when it is not. Consider changing your transmission fluid every 30,000 to 50,000 miles instead of Ford's extended interval, especially if you are primarily a city driver. And always use tall haul mode. When pulling anything, it prevents the gear hunting that overworks the clutch packs. Hybrid models like the Escape Hybrid and the F-150 Power Boost get fewer complete heat cycles, because the gasoline engine cycles on and off. Ford recommends time-based oil changes for hybrids for exactly this reason. Do not go by mileage alone. If most of your driving is under 15 minutes, congratulations. You qualify for what manufacturers call severe service. That is not an insult, it is a classification that means your maintenance schedule should be more aggressive. Here is what that looks like. Oil changes every 5,000 miles or 6 months, whichever comes first. Do not wait for the oil life monitor to tell you. Transmission fluid every 30,000 to 50,000 miles, even if Ford says it is lifetime fluid. There is no such thing when moisture is involved. Coolant checks weekly, especially on EcoBoost vehicles with known coolant intrusion issues. If you are losing coolant with no visible leak, get to a dealer immediately. Battery testing annually. Catch a weak battery before it strands you. Why this information matters more than ever. Modern Fords are better engineered than ever. They are more efficient, more powerful, more capable. But that efficiency comes from tighter tolerances, more sophisticated systems, and less margin for error. Your grandfather's 302 V8 could survive abuse that would kill a modern EcoBoost. That is not a knock on the new engines. It is just reality. Modern powertrains reward proper care with incredible longevity, and they punish neglect faster than older designs. The Ford owners who hit 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles are not lucky. They are not driving special vehicles. They understand how their trucks and cars actually work, and they adjust their habits accordingly. 500,000 miles on a Ford is not a fantasy. It is an achievable goal. But you have to work with the vehicle, not against it. That means understanding that short trips are harder on your engine than highway miles. That oil life monitors are guidelines, not gospel. That one weekly heat cycle can undo the damage from days of quick errands. That modern transmissions need fluid changes even when Ford says they do not. Your F-150, your Bronco, your Explorer, they want to last. Ford engineers designed them to last. But they cannot overcome physics. Every cold start without a full warm-up is a small withdrawal from your vehicle's lifespan. You will not notice it today. You will pay for it 5 years from now when the cam phasers start rattling or the transmission starts hunting for gears. Now you know. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. Here is my challenge. Think honestly about your last week of driving. How many trips were under 15 minutes? Did you give your Ford even one solid 20-minute highway run? If most people are being honest, the answer explains a lot about why some Fords last forever and others do not make it to 150,000. One drive a week, 20 minutes, it is the cheapest insurance you will ever buy for your Ford.